Shalom, I'm David Benkof, the Broadway Maven, and it looks like we're going to have a small crowd today, but that's okay. Lots of old friends joining us here. Phantom of the Opera is a class I've taught probably 4 or 5 times. Anybody been to my Phantom class before? Yeah, several of you. This is completely different. I think other than showing that high school group of students that everything we're doing tonight is new to the Phantom class. Let's just put it that way. So we're going to start, as I've been doing lately, with a theme song for the class and a little artificially enhanced video. So let's take a look. I think Kate can't believe what she's looking at, and maybe Ruth Ellen too. It's pretty remarkable what computers can do these days. Let's look at the very first scene from the show.
Lot 666. A chandelier in pieces.
So easy to forget or to not notice. They do lot 664, lot 665, and then they do lot 666, which of course is the number of the devil.
Some of you may recall the strange affair of the Phantom of the Opera, a mystery never fully explained. We are told, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the very chandelier which figures in that famous disaster. Our workshops have restored it and fitted parts of it with wiring for the new electric light, so that we may get a hint of how it may look when reassembled. Perhaps we may even frighten away the ghost of so many years ago with a little illumination. Gentlemen!
Now, in London and in New York, when they raise the chandelier and when it comes down, it's really slow. Has anybody seen it and been surprised at how slow it is? Okay, it's not that fast. But in some international productions, it's really fast. So I'm going to show you, I think, 5 international productions.
Happening. This thing does not happen.
Okay, what's interesting to me is she's got an Italian accent, but it's an Italian accent in English, right? And they're all speaking French, right? So it's just interesting that her accent is certainly not what it would have been, because she would be speaking French with an accent.
Ballo, andiamo, eh?
Signora, signora!
Oh, che dolore. Where in the world hiding.
Okay, double meaning here. If a painter or a singer or some other artist were to appear suddenly, you might say to them, "Wow, where have you been hiding?" Meaning, where has your talent been hiding? How come you're not famous? But also, she disappears occasionally. So, where in the world have you been hiding could refer to that too.
Really, you were perfect.
Night time sharpens, heightens each sensation.
Okay, so for homework, you were supposed to look at, I think, six different A, B, C, D, E, F, six different phantoms from high schools, and determine which one you liked better for whichever reason. So as we look these through, put your favorite in the chat and explain why.
Darkness stirs and wakes imagination. Silently the senses abandon their defenses. Slowly, gently, night unfurls its splendor. Grasp it, sense it, tremulous and tender. Turn your face away from the garish light of day. Turn your thoughts away from cold, unfeeling light, and listen to the music of the night. Close your eyes and surrender to your darkest dreams. Purge your thoughts of the life you knew before. Close your eyes, let your spirit start to soar. And you'll live as you've never lived before. Music shall caress you. Hear it, secretly possess you. Open up your mind, let your fantasies unwind in this darkness which you know you cannot find. The darkness of the music of the night. Let your mind start a journey through a strange new world. Leave all thoughts of the world you knew before. Let your soul take you where you long to be. Only then can you belong to me. Floating, falling, sweet intoxication. Touch me, trust me, savor each sensation. Let our dream begin. Let your darkest side give in to the power of the music that I write. The power of the music of the night. You alone can make my song take flight.
like the music of the night.
Okay, that was fun. I see there's a really wide variety of what people like best. Um, Before we do something that I know you guys like, so that is my teaser. Before we do something I know you guys like, I want to open up the floor to questions, comments, discussion related to Phantom. We don't do trivia questions. If you have a memory, try to keep it to 45 seconds or less. But what's on your mind regarding Phantom of the Opera? Let's start with Cap.
Is that a junior production that's bowdlerized to some degree, or is that the full production that you see at
That
the high
that
schools?
is that is six different productions of
Okay, but is it a junior version of Phantom, or is it a
it's
full
the high
Phantom?
school. It's the high school version. How come? Did you notice the lyric change?
No, I didn't hear anything, but
Okay.
I'm wondering why they label it as a high school version when it's doesn't seem to me to be any different from the full version.
Well, with the high school version, sometimes they cut down the dialogue.
Mm.
Uh, they have different pacing. But yes, in this case, the music is the same, as far as I can tell. Um, Other comments or questions or memories? Consider Andrew Lloyd Webber. Thoughts about ALW? Okay, let's move on to something that I know you'll like.
No more talk of darkness. Forget these wide-eyed fears. I'm here. Nothing can harm you. My words will warm and calm you. Let me be your freedom. Let daylight dry your tears. I'm here with you beside you to guard you and to guide you.
Say you love me every waking moment. Turn my head with talk of summertime. Say you need me with you in our heart always. Promise me that all you say is true. That's all I ask of.
One of my favorite songs in the
Here's the
show
fun
is
part.
the love duet that Christine and Raoul sing near the end of Act 1, which is, of course, All I Ask of You. And what makes this song so brilliant is the simplicity of its music. There's a misconception, I think, that a lot of people have about composing music where you assume that the more brilliant the composer, the more complex and fleshed out the music is going to be. That is sometimes true, but not always. Andrew Lloyd Webber, we know, is more than capable of creating very, very complex music. But for this song, he chooses to go very, very simple, and I would argue it is significantly more effective than if he were to, for example, choose to go very, very complicated on this song. Look at this first bar here. This is what the piano player is supposed to be playing. In the entire bar, there's not a single note in the piano part that doesn't come from the basic major triad, the most basic of all chords. This is a D-flat major triad, so it starts with D-flat, and then we get F and A-flat. So every single note that the piano player is playing here is either a D-flat, an F, or an A-flat. And then the next bar is the exact same as well. So we not only have the same major triad without changing the harmony, but even the rhythm is exactly the same 2 bars in a row. So it's this extremely, extremely simple piano part. Then we get the first note in the entire piano part that isn't in the D major triad, and it goes from this to this. Ready? You ready to hear this massive difference? That's it. It's just this one note that moves a semitone. That's it. Then we start to get a few more complicated chords here, but even this, which is outside of the key signature, this C flat, just leads us right back to that D flat major. So it's extremely, extremely simple music. The chords are all basic triads. And if there is a note that's outside of it, it's like a very small note in one section of the piano part. Then, the fact that he's gone so simple for so much of the song means that when there is one little element of complexity, it really, really stands out. When Christine comes in with her vocal line on Say You Love Me, we get this D flat major chord, same as before, except for now we get this note in the right hand, this E. So instead of just being D flat, F, and A flat, we now add the E flat and listen to how different it makes the sound. There's the normal, plain, boring major triad, and then when we add that E flat, it becomes so much more rich and warm. Do you hear the difference? This is with the added E flat, and this is without. There's so much more warmth. So all of a sudden, we're adding more complex chords on this chorus. It's still not very complex. It's still just one note added to the major triad. But because we've been doing just major triads the whole way, this tiny little added complexity feels incredibly emotionally rich in comparison. Then we look at the melody line, and Christine has this fascinating melody line where she has this huge jump down. We go from, say you love me every waking moment. These huge leaps in the melody feel very, very emotional. There are songs that only have a range of 1 octave in the entire song, right? That's from a D flat to the next D flat on the piano, for example. That's an octave. In this one jump, Christine goes from an E flat, which is even higher, all the way down to a D flat. So Christine jumps all those notes. Say you love me every waking moment. And then another big jump, moment. So there are these huge leaps. And the fact that the leaps are so big makes them very, very emotional. Think about the difference between the sound of that big leap, love me every waking, as opposed to if it was a very small leap. For example, if it was, say you love me every waking moment. If there weren't those big jumps, the melody would sound a lot more flat. But because there's that big jump, it feels like a sigh. It feels very emotional, very sweeping, and very romantic. And because Andrew Lloyd Webber has set it up to be so simple, when we get that tiny little bit of complexity in the chorus, it just feels so emotional by comparison. Then we get another little bit of complexity here. Again, we're taking the major triad, but all we have to change is that instead of putting the D flat on the bottom, we just take the F and put that on the bottom. And that's called an inversion because you're inverting the chord. One of the notes that was supposed to be in the middle is now inverted to be at the bottom. It's still the same triad, so we still only have D flat, F, and A flat, but because we're inverting it, it gives it a little bit more complexity and a little bit more character. And that leads us very nicely with this C, which is a passing tone which connects the two chords. It leads us very nicely to the minor chord. And that transition from major to minor literally feels very bittersweet. There's something very, there's such a contrast there between that major and and then the minor. And because everything else around it is so simple, those small changes are extremely effective. Then again, here, we're counting in 4/4 time, right? We're counting, say you love me every waking moment. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're always counting in 4. But here, we get a bar of 2 and then a bar of 3, which combines to make like 5 beats. So it's basically like, it feels like we're adding an extra beat. Instead of this being in 4/4, we get it in like 2 plus 3, so we get it in 5. In 4/4, it would sound like this. Promise me that all you say is true. That's all I ask of you. Right? But because we get that one extra beat that we're not expecting, I always say music affects us by surprising us. Music affects us by subverting our expectations. Here, because we get that one extra beat and we have to wait an extra beat for that line, it's very, it creates this tension that is very emotional. Promise me that all you say is true. Boom, that's all I ask of you. Just that one extra beat is so emotional. And then we've basically set up everything we need to know for the entire song already. That's it. Everything else is just a repeat of that and a change in the dynamics. So for example, here, instead of just playing the D flat major chord, now we have these violins coming in with the added 16th note. So they have this moving line, which is beautiful and just adds more movement, just builds the emotion, but the chords and the melody are exactly the same as before. And then by the time we get to the end, they're singing the same thing together, but, where is it? Here we go. They're singing the same thing together in harmony, and now up an octave as well. So we have a harmony line. Instead of, anywhere you go, let me go to, there's now, anywhere you go, let me go to, a harmony. And it's up the octave, so they're singing at the top of their range, which just makes it way more exciting. Anywhere you go, let me go to. And then here, we subvert the expectation again. We started, the first time we heard this, we expected a bar of 4, but instead we got a bar of 2 and then a bar of 3, so 5 in total. Now, we get a bar of 2 and then a bar of 4, so 6 in total. So it added 1 beat at the beginning of the chorus. At the end of the chorus, it adds 2 beats. It sounds like, let me go to, love me, that's all I ask of you. And so, because it keeps surprising us, it keeps expanding our expectations by tiny little things, right? Every single time, it surprises us in such a tiny, subtle way. Either it adds that one note to the major triad, right? Tiny little surprise. Or it adds 1 beat to the bar. There's just these tiny little ways of surprising us, or we just take the melody up an octave. It takes this very simple melody and these very simple chords, and because the melody and the chords are so simple, even just the tiniest little detail shifts create enormous emotional impact in the listener. And so that's why this song is so great, because it uses so much restraint in limiting the number of musical elements that it uses compositionally, and so every little thing has an enormous emotional impact.
Okay, we're going to come back to Matteo later in tonight's class, but first here's a video essay comparing the various versions of the Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera is one of the most instantly recognizable villains in history. With his iconic motif and iconic mask, you would struggle to find anyone who cannot name him in the villainous lineup. However, the character is much deeper and more nuanced than many may give him credit for. While some would argue he is not really a villain at all, he still commits many villainous acts, and is the primary antagonist of the novel he is the titular character of, and its many stage and film adaptations. The Phantom of the Opera first appeared in the 1910 novel of the same name. In it, he is a lonely genius called Eric, who lives under the Paris Opera House, stalking its corridors and living at large using the superstition of the opera ghost to mask his movements and motives. The opera reserves him a box and even pays him an allowance, and using his intellect and theatrical affinity, he keeps the ruse going. Eric is no ghost or witch, however. He is merely a hideously deformed man blessed by an angelic singing voice and an otherworldly genius. He hides his deformed face behind a mask and skulks about the opera. However, things change when he falls in love with up-and-coming opera star Christine Day. Eric poses as the angel of music and, using his ghostly misdirections, teaches Christine how to sing. He intends to profess his love for her, but things get more complicated when a young viscount called Raoul falls in love with Christine as well. Eric then kidnaps her, and once she sees his hideous face, which lacks a nose, has sunken eyes, and is generally skull-like, he forces her to stay in his creepy house under the opera. However, the Phantom is love-struck after all, and instead allows Christine to leave, providing she marry him. However, she then falls in love with Raoul and tries to abandon Eric after performing for him one final time. However, he kidnaps her, this time intending for it to be permanent, and offers her a choice: marry him or blow up the opera and kill everyone inside it. Thanks to the involvement of Raoul and a man called the Persian, Christine chooses to marry Eric, sparing the opera. However, Eric realizes that she will be happier with Raoul and chooses to let her marry him instead. He then leaves, only to die shortly afterwards. The Phantom is a multi-layered character. Because of his deformities, he has never experienced love, and he receives nothing but ridicule and disdain from society, forcing him to hide from the world. Despite this, he is an architectural and musical genius. His voice is beautiful enough to be mistaken for that of an angel, after all. In the novel, Eric is composing a mighty piece on the organ called Don Juan Triumphant, which he finishes shortly before the final kidnapping of Christine. The Phantom of the Opera novel actually fell out of print, despite its modern success. It was Henry Lloyd Webber's musical that brought it back to the popularity that it sees today, despite its many film adaptations over the years. In the original novel, the entirety of Eric's face is deformed and he wears a full mask. However, he is more famously depicted with a half mask covering a scarred half of his face, thanks to the Broadway musical and its film adaptation. This change was made during the production of the original Broadway because the full mask and deformities limited the Phantom actor's expressions. The original 1925 adaptation of The Phantom of the Opera by Universal features the most book-accurate depiction of the Phantom, with renowned SFX makeup artist and performer Lon Chaney as the Phantom. This makeup was exceptionally impressive for its time and was kept a secret from the cast and most of the crew until its reveal. The makeup was applied by Chaney himself and was supposedly very painful to wear. There have been many adaptations of the book since the 1925 film, the most famous being the Broadway show, which influences how the public perceives the character the most. However, the character is given a much more protagonistic approach in this play, whereas he is more of a villain in the original, despite being sympathetic. He also does not die at the end, like in the book. The list of actors to portray the Phantom of the Opera is Lon Chaney in the 1925 film, Claude Rains in the 1943 film, Herbert Lom in the 1962 film, Stephen Harley in the 1986 music video, Julian Sands in the 1998 film, and Gerard Butler in the 2004 film. The song The Phantom of the Opera was released in 1986 as a single and managed to get to number 7 on the UK pop charts. This was done mostly to promote the upcoming Broadway show, and it features slightly different lyrics to the versions that would come later. The song also found immense popularity in the heavy metal scene, with bands like Nightwish creating metal-infused covers of it, which have heavily influenced the way other musicians cover the song, featuring heavier guitars and a repeat in the bridge that is not featured in the original. Eric, the Phantom of the Opera, in the original book, worked for a time in Persia, creating buildings and his infamous torture chamber for the Sultan. He also had dealings with the Persian in that time, but a lot of the details of this story are kept vague in the book. In the end, Eric chooses to be the bigger man and allow Christine to marry the man that she loves, thus redeeming himself slightly. A lot of elements of the original story were actually based on true events. There really is a lake underneath the Paris Opera House, however it resembles more of a sewer than an actual lake. There were rumours of a faceless man that lived down there though. The chandelier that falls from the ceiling in both the book and musical actually is based on a real tragedy. Instead of the whole chandelier falling, one of the counterweights broke and fell into the crowd and killed somebody. There are a number of ghost stories that the Phantom himself could be based on. One such is that there was an opera pianist who was disfigured in a fire and said to retreat below the opera to live out the rest of his days. There are some legitimate ghost stories considered the Opera House too, and there was even a body dug up there once, but the cellars were once used to hold prisoners at some point in French history, so it is more likely that it is just the body of a prisoner who died. Christine Day herself is loosely based on the real opera singer Christine Nilsson, who was also Swedish and renowned for her performances in Faust. The Phantom of the Opera has been a part of the literary, theatrical and film landscape for over 100 years, and as such there have been many adaptations and little tidbits of knowledge, more than I am able to cover in one video.
I had the pleasure of riding the Phantom of the Opera roller coaster, which is at Europa Park in Germany, in order to write a review for MARQUEE. Shalom, I'm David Benkof, the Broadway Maven. The latest revival of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera isn't in a theater. It's the theme of a just-opened virtual reality ride at Germany's Europa Park. So open up your mind, let your fantasies unwind, as I show you how to savor each sensation of this thrilling, if flawed, new Broadway-themed attraction. Let's go! The Phantom Ride, also known as Eurosat Coastiality, is housed in a huge geodesic dome that looks suspiciously like Disney's Epcot. It shares a track with a conventionally themed non-VR version, but those who shell out the extra €7 get a much more intense experience. While you wait in line, notice the clever details, such as a stage door for Christine Daae and the Phantom's preferred Box 5. My favorite touch? Opera posters on the wall promoting productions from Phantom like Hannibal and Il Muto, but also Lloyd Webber's over-the-top spectacles Starlight Express and Cats. The ride's orientation is presented by the show's diva Carlotta, who gives the do's and don'ts. The virtual reality is delivered through a surprisingly comfortable device that covers nearly the entire head, providing an immersive experience of sight and sound. Soon, however, the riders board their gondolas, and the best part of Phantom of the Opera, the songs, become the soundtrack of the experience. I noticed pretty much all the major songs except the iconic music of the night. The track guides riders to the top of the dome, where the chandelier is, and the Phantom becomes visible as he angrily sends the chandelier crashing to the stage. We crash with it, and are submerged even further down to the Phantom's lair, surrounded by the fire of the Opera House. You'll experience floating, falling, and sweet intoxication from the plunges and curves of the ride. Wherever you look, the VR transports you to the detailed world of the famously elaborate Broadway set. Unfortunately, the virtual reality part of the ride still faces some glitches. Lloyd Webber's music was sometimes muffled, and the screen occasionally had distracting vertical lines and even at one point flashed a battery low warning. So why am I still recommending it? Because after 2 rides with flaws, the third was one of the best theme park experiences of my life, given the ride's potential when it avoids pitfalls, and given my love for Andrew Lloyd Webber's show. The Phantom Ride isn't easy to get to. Located in Rust, Germany, it's not near any major German cities, and my companion and I had to fly to Basel, Switzerland, and drive more than an hour. Eurosat Coastiality requires park admission in addition to an individual ride ticket. If you're a fan of both theme parks and musical theater, and want to treat yourself, this is one virtual reality experience that has enough virtues to merit a special European vacation. What other musicals do you think would lend themselves to the virtual reality treatment? Explain your answers in the comments.
Phantom of the...
Okay, so there's a new version of Phantom that I wanted to share with you.
Opera fans have a new reason to cheer. There's a new immersive version of the famed Broadway musical. Dave Carlin covers arts and entertainment and takes us inside Masquerade.
Lavish and breathtaking are words some audience members are using to describe a reimagined return of Phantom. Masquerade is the title of a relaunch, immersive, opulent, and smashing. You're guided on room after room, across floor after floor, including the basement and rooftop. The creators, including Tony Award-winning director Diane Paulus, transformed the former Lee's Art Shop at 218 West 57th Street.
There is technology that exists on our show that has never existed in any other theater production.
Telly Leung is a Broadway veteran playing the Phantom, putting him in overlapping rotation with 5 other actors. Each audience gets one of the Phantoms as a menacing force for the Opera House and for young lovers, Christine and Raoul. The hit songs and plot are intact, but ramped up are the romance and dread and a deeper fleshing out of the Phantom's traumatic childhood.
Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber, in some photos with you, what's his reaction been?
He insisted that we all meet him between shows on the roof of the building so that he could tell us personally how thrilled he was that this version of his show now exists.
This production is shrouded in secrecy and a mask is mandatory. Entry is through an unmarked door, earned with a secret password and following a dress code of all white, silver, or black. If you forget a mask like I did, you'll be given one.
Perfect.
And when you're done being dazzled, unwind in the bar.
It's a lot of fun. I loved it. I loved it.
To elevate the already phenomenal Phantom, join the masquerade. Dave Carlin, CBS News, New York.
Till I Hear You Sing today. This is from Love Never Dies.
Dave Carlin, CBS News, New York.
Till I Hear You Sing today. This is from Love Never Dies. The ill.
Okay, I wanted to cover the sequel to Phantom of the Opera, which is called Love Never Dies. Who's seen it? Love Never Dies. Elsa has seen it, and Lynn has seen it. It is people. It brings up mixed feelings for a lot of people. Stephanie, I saw the Hunchback of Notre Dame musical in when I was in Berlin. It was in German, but still, it was not good. It was not funny or fun at all. It was just so serious. And the animated musical can be fun at some point. Anyway, paint never dries. Okay, but anyway, Matteo doesn't love the show, but loves this song, and he's going to explain why.
Sequel to the Phantom of the Opera. There are plenty of spicy takes on the internet about this show, Love Never Dies. But regardless of my opinion on the overall quality of the show, I think that this song has a quite beautiful melody and is really, really, really fun to sing. So we're going to look at it today and figure out how it succeeds so well in building to its epic climax. It starts like this. Very softly. And basically what's happening here is we just have these major chords that are just moving up and down in root position through diatonic chords.
Sorry.
The key of F major. So there's really nothing too revolutionary happening in this intro here. I, for one, don't love when we get a bunch of triads in root position, one after the other. Root position means they're not inverted, so the bottom note is the note that the triad is built off of. Here we've got an F major triad, and the bottom note is an F, so that's root position. Here we've got a G minor triad, the bottom note is G, so that's root position. And then here we've got a C major triad, and the bottom note is C, so that's root position. And in general, when you're trying to construct a line out of chords, you want to use inversions so that you don't always have the root note on the bottom. When you do have the root note on the bottom, it can feel kind of robotic. Like, listen to this. Compared to if I were to play something with inversions, it would sound more like... You know, there's just a little bit more emotional content when there are inversions being used. So I don't love the fact that there's no inversions here, but the emotional content starts coming strong here at bar 9 when the singer comes in, because we get this melody. The day starts, the day ends, time crawls by, night night steals in, pacing the floor. The moments creep, yet I can't bear to sleep till I hear you sing. And weeks pass and months pass, seasons fly. Still you don't walk through the door. And in a haze I count the silent days till I hear you sing once more. And then we go into the bridge. So far we're getting the foundations of a classic AABA song form. We get the melody comes in, the main melody, that's the A melody. Then we get a repeat of it here, and weeks pass and months pass, so second A melody, AA. And now here we're going somewhere totally different, and that's going to be our B melody. So we're setting us up for a very traditional song form, and we as the audience already have a preconceived notion of how a song in this form is going to build, and I'll show you how this song adheres to that and how it deviates from that to surprise us. The thing I want to really point out about the construction of the melody itself as you know, probably, this song is sung by the Phantom of the Opera. And the Phantom of the Opera was the title character in another musical called The Phantom of the Opera, written by Andrew Lloyd Webber as well. The music was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber as well for that. And in The Phantom of the Opera, of which Love Never Dies is a sequel, the Phantom sings a song called Music of the Night. And that's the song that the Phantom sings when he's trying to, like, seduce Christine. And it goes, nighttime sharpens, heightens each sensation, stirs and wakes imagination, whatever the words are. But what I want to point out to you is the melody and the similarities between that melody and this melody that you're seeing here. Crucially, if I put them in the same key, this is how Music of the Night sounds in F major. So we start with A down to C, and then we get G down to C, then we get this moving line, and then we end on a C up the octave. The construction of this melody, we start with G down to C, and then we get A down to C, then we get a moving line, and then we end on C up the octave. So it's very similar in its construction to Music of the Night. It's just that the phrase where G goes to C and the phrase where A goes to C come in the opposite order. Do you see how that works? Nighttime is the same as time crawls by, and then nighttime sharpens is the same as the day starts, the day ends. Then we get oh my god, I'm getting the two songs confused in my head now. Nighttime sharpens, da 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 da. That is equivalent to night steals in, pacing the floor, and it ends on the same note. So there's a lot of slight similarities to the way Music of the Night is constructed. They are not the same melody. They are not even conceivably variations of the same melody, but there are elements of the melody and the way the melody is constructed that are very, very similar, which just serves to anchor this in the Phantom that we know and love. It serves to connect the Phantom in the sequel, Love Never Dies, with the Phantom that we already know from the original Phantom of the Opera. The other thing I love about this is that the hook of the song, the main lyric, the title of the song, and the last lyric of all the verses, and the end of the melody, the melodic line, is, till I hear you sing once more. But the first time we hear this melody, it cuts short, and we just jump straight to the next verse. Here. You bear to sleep till I hear you sing. And then instead of going once more, it goes, and weeks pass and months pass. We just skip it and we save it for later so that when we finally get it here, it's a very satisfying sound to end on that F when the last verse didn't end on the F. It didn't have that resolution. Now we go into the bridge, and the bridge takes us into basically A minor here with that B natural. But crucially, B natural is borrowed from F Lydian, so this is the F Lydian scale. And Lydian has a reputation for being a very dreamlike scale. And the F Lydian scale has that B natural, so now that we're using this B natural, it feels a little bit like F Lydian. And he's singing about dreams when we go into this dreamlike scale. And sometimes at night time I dream that you are there, but awake, holding nothing but the empty air. There's some weird shifts here. We've got the B natural here, but this is a B flat because there's no accidental, and there's a B flat in the key signature. So that's a B flat, but this is a B natural. So we're kind of shifting back and forth between scales. We're pivoting a lot of the time on the A here, which is shared between the Lydian scale and the major scale with the B flat. And then here we even get this E flat, which is borrowed from like the Mixolydian scale or the Dorian scale. A lot of these scales have a flattened 7th degree, which are all kind of darker sounds than the major scale. So we've got this very bright Lydian dreamlike sound. He's dreaming about Christine, but then that's contrasted with this E flat, which creates this dark sound, I guess that represents his rage and his angst about the fact that Christine doesn't want to be with him. Then we get a repeat of the same thing. Till I hear you sing once more. This is very interesting. The first time we hear this, it's sing once more, all the way down to the C. The second time we hear it, it's sing once more, only down to the D, so it doesn't go down as far. And then the final time we hear it, it's going to be up the octave, till I hear you sing, but then it's going to stay on the F, so it's not going to go down at all. Once more. So it's interesting how just that note once builds throughout the song. It goes the first time, then the second time it goes. That's the second time, and then the third time it goes. That's the final time. So it's really interesting how that one note change in the melody just keeps the stakes rising, keeps the tensions rising, keeps the emotion rising. Then we get our bridge section again. So now we've had our full AABA form, right? We've had our first melody, our A melody. Then we've had a repeat of it here. Then we get our bridge section. And then we come back to our A melody. So that's our full AABA. But now we extend it so we get an extra B and an extra A, and these ones build even higher and louder, and we end up with the Phantom singing up the octave. And music, your music, it teases at my ear. I turn and it fades away, and you're not here. Let hopes pass, let dreams pass, let them die. Without you, what are they for? I'll always feel no more than halfway real till I hear you sing once more. It's this huge climax at the end there that I have not warmed up enough to sing, clearly. But what I love about it is that even when the melodic line resolves, The piano doesn't, right? Here we have "Let them die," and the vocal line lands on that C, which is a part of the F major chord. Or it's also part of the C major chord that leads to the F major chord. So no matter whether it's going to F or C, that C is still a resolved note. But then the piano takes us to this other place where we get this like B flat major 7 underneath it, where the C is not a part of that chord at all. We get this chord in the piano, and the singer is singing this note. Do you see how that clashes visually? Like these two notes are just right next to each other. Die. And then finally we get a resolution here on "Without you, what are they for?" And then the same thing happens here. The singer goes all the way up to that high B flat. "Till I hear you sing." And you expect it to go "once more." Boom. End on that F major. And that's where the vocals go, but it's not where the piano goes. The piano gives us this weird B flat major 7 again. Which then, do you hear how crunchy that is with those two notes right next to each other? And then we get this like B flat chord over a C in the bass, which then finally takes us to the F major chord. So the singer is singing the F, which is resolved, which is final, while the piano resolves around the singer. So we get "once more," and everything else is still chaos around, and then it settles. More. Boom. And that is the big climactic ending of the song.
Matteo has a show opening off Broadway. Very, very exciting. He co-wrote the show, co-wrote the music and the lyrics. It's called The Opening, and it's only running for like 6 weeks. And on February 1st, I am trying to put together a Maven Day on Broadway, where you would all be invited to join me in a visit to Broadway, where we would do 5 things. Visit the Museum of Broadway, where I would give a tour, a backstage tour, or at least a private tour of the Hayes Theater, and that's priceless. You just can't sign up for that. You have to know someone who knows someone, and you know me. Third, a visit to the Drama Bookshop. Fourth, lunch with Matteo talking about his show. And fifth, a visit to Matteo's show. You would get a ticket to that. That would all be put together. It would be about $200, and a chance to get together with our community and enjoy lots of stuff about Broadway. And I'm curious, is that the kind of thing any of you are interested in? Is it the kind of thing any of you would come to New York for? Ruth Ellen is interested. Kate is interested. Elsa is not sure. Kate, where do you live? Miriam is interested. Kate, where do you live? Yeah, that Kate.
Aptos, California.
Oh, you live in California, but you might come.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Just need to kind of know a hotel. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
We're not far in Pennsylvania, but it's not something that Ray can do, and it would be weather dependent too.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to share that idea with you. The other thing is there anybody here who has an advanced degree in a STEM field? Raise your hand. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Pamela, will you send me a private message? I would appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, let's look at the Cinema Sins. This is that YouTube channel that says everything wrong with the movie of various shows.
The Strange Affair of the Phantom of the Opera.
Strange affair? It was less than 50 years ago and several people died. Hell, there was a big old mob assembled in the middle of fucking Paris to take that mean bastard out. This is like me not remembering the scourge of disco, even though that was less than 50 years ago. Also, they're selling this chandelier? Who the is gonna buy that? I know a lot of these folks are rich and have big homes, but big enough for a goddamn opera house chandelier? They might as well sell the entire stage while they're at it. As the iconic opening of the Phantom score kicks in, I can't help but think about how fucking dated that synthesizer intro sounds. It's like a flock of seagulls decided to get super dramatic on one of their later albums. This opera is sung in English, and everyone knows there's never been an English language opera.
Vicomte de Chagny.
Why are they introducing the new owners and patron to the cast of the opera, especially after interrupting them mid-rehearsal? Sure, some of these assholes are part of the company, but for a big production like this, it's bound to be mostly extras and freelancers. Do they really need to know the administrative team behind the scenes of the business?
I guess you could say we were childhood sweethearts.
Aww.
He called me Little Lottie.
Also, in reality, Patrick Wilson is about 13 years older than Emmy Rossum, and their characters here sure do look like they have a similar age gap. So the idea of them being childhood sweethearts turns the stomach more than the Phantom's mild facial disfigurement.
Let us sing for you, monsieur.
We know that Christine is talented, but shouldn't the managers be still pursuing their lead performer? I don't care if she's histrionic. She was literally almost killed a few minutes ago and rightfully stormed off when the guy said it was no big deal. Basically, this is a long way of saying this works. Christine sings Think of Me here, and it's clear that she's got a delightful voice, very beautiful, ethereal, and pure. But one thing it ain't is traditionally f***ing operatic. Jesus Christ, this whole Christine is better than Carlotta bullshit is the most infuriating part of this f***ing movie. Meg asks who Christine's teacher is just now? She knows she's been getting lessons since she was a kid, and she's clearly Christine's best friend in the company. So how has she not gotten this information before this point? It's not like Christine is holding back. She immediately tells Meg the truth.
Do you think the spirit of your father's coaching you? Who else, Meg?
On the scale of possibilities of who may be training Christine to sing, the spectrum starts with Angel on one side and ends with a disfigured, horny angel that's desperately trying to hide a Scottish accent, grooming a child to become his songbird bride someday. And honestly, this plot can go f*** itself. The Phantom has been her teacher since she was a little tyke, so why does he just now appear to Christine? Is it because she finally starred in a show? Cool to have your own gondola and everything, but isn't this the Parisian sewer? Even if it's just a storm drain, this place has to smell like absolute Who sculpted and carved out this underground lair? Phantom fans will tell you that Eric did it when he was a construction worker or some but in this movie, he's brought here when he was a kid, so all of this existed before him. Who's it for?
Your public needs you. We need you too.
Where was this f***ing ass-kissing last night? Christine is back from being kidnapped, and she did perfectly well without Carlotta, so why aren't the owners continuing to pursue her as the lead? Oh, hi, Christine! Is anyone going to ask you about the horrible and traumatizing abduction that went down last night? Especially after you delivered a universally beloved performance? No? Honestly, I'm confused about whom I'm supposed to care for in this movie. They're doing a completely different opera tonight? Right after they staged the Grand Hannibal performance just the night before? I'm sure the company is talented and but there's no way they have all the set design, music, and costumes set for this sudden change at the drop of a hat. Hell, the Phantom only ordered that they do this morning, so they had even less time to prepare. I know Christine's probably traumatized and sleep deprived, but if you're Raoul, I'm going to say her request to love her every waking moment might be a red flag this early in the relationship. This masquerade number is pretty f***ing impressive, I'm not going to lie. But why is it being performed out in the lobby? Are the patrons in on the song? How do they block this while the regular customers are milling about? Hey, you know the best parts of this musical that you know by heart? The great songs and the lush spectacle? Yeah, all that shit's in the first act. The second act is a big old snooze fest with a side of narcolepsy and a dash of and now they plot to bar the doors during the Phantom's opera to capture him. And apparently they forgot that the Phantom recently opened a hole in the floor and knows about 39 more ways to sneak around than anyone else. Not so bad, honestly. Have you seen Lon Chaney's version of this character? Now that's scary. This guy is a little rough around the edges, but I would not say he's unfuckable. Place is burning to the ground and the mob chants, "Track down this murderer, he must be found," rather than "Grab your fire buddy and run to the nearest exit."
This is as far as I dare go.
Thank you.
Why didn't anyone else come with Raoul? There were a ton of policemen in the opera house, and many of them were backstage, so they weren't affected by the chandelier falling. Damn it, these Parisian police are as worthless as the Keystone Cops.
Okay, fun. I like that video. I like hanging out with you and talking Phantom. I can stay around for 5 minutes if anybody has anything to talk about, but we are about at 1. So thank you to everybody for coming, and thank you to Mateo who gave us double videos today, which I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. Maxine wishes she could enjoy. You could join us for the New York Day. Thank you to everybody. Bye, Leon. Or Leon, are you raising your hand?
I can't let a Phantom class go by without pointing out that my wife and I went to the 10,000th performance.
Oh, wow.
In New York. I think it was 2012.
Uh-huh.
It was huge fun.
That's a lot of performances. Anybody else want to chat about anything or say something? Okay. I enjoyed
How much, David, how much walking is involved in that day in New York?
The Drama Bookshop is on 39th and the Museum of Broadway is on 46th. I don't know where Mateo's show is, but if it's far, then we can take Ubers and subways. and lunch will certainly be someplace in that vicinity. Everybody will pay for their own lunch, but we'll go to someplace that has a private area, but I don't know, pizzeria or a sandwich place or something like that. Ruth
I was
Ellen.
just gonna say quickly, you read my mind because I was gonna ask you about that, because ever since you mentioned that he got that award, it's been on my mind. Would rather it wouldn't be during cold weather, but
Yeah.
honestly, I'm just grinning from ear to ear whenever I watch Mateo, even if I didn't know what was going on, because he's just so enthused about what he's doing. He's great. So I'd love to support that. And I'd love to have a chance to see you guys.
Sure, that would be fun. Cap.
So thanks for thinking about it like you tend to do.
I'll email you after my wife and I go November 12th for the Hippodrome in Baltimore. It's the new touring version of Phantom of the Opera, and I think Baltimore is the first stop. So November the 12th, after we go, I'll email you and let you know what I think.
I'd like that, and I hope we gave you some insight that you would not.
Yes, you did, especially All I Ask of You, which is the song I used when I proposed to my wife.
Right.
So
Right, that's terrific. And yeah, Mateo's video was very, very good.